Donald Trump has already shown himself to have little regard for the many acolytes that he has encouraged to commit crimes on his behalf. You can delay justice for a time, but history shows you cannot prevent it from finding you eventually. If you hurt my people, nothing will stop me, not time or political circumstance, from making sure that you face justice under our constitutional rule of law.
De repente, Donald Trump dice que va a mandar al ejército a patrullar las calles de Chicago, tal y como lo hizo con la capital, Washington, D.C. Amigos, ya es como si estuviéramos hablando de un país a punto de ser militarizado. Esto mismo quiso hacer con Chicago, pero la diferencia es que en esta ocasión se topó con el gobernador, el cual le respondió, amigos, con un discurso que sinceramente fue una cachetada en la cara del trumpismo. Vamos a ver los momentos brutales de ese discurso y créanme, señores, que cada momento nos deja más claro que lo que Trump quiere hacer no es seguridad. Esto es pura sed de poder. Vamos a empezar con lo que arrancó todo esto. Escuchemos.
I want to speak plainly about the moment that we are in and the actual crisis, not the manufactured one, that we are facing in this city and as a state and as a country. If it sounds to you like I am alarmist, that is because I am ringing an alarm. One that I hope every person listening will heed, both here in Illinois and across the country. Over the weekend, we learned from the media that Donald Trump has been planning for quite a while now to deploy armed military personnel to the streets of Chicago. This is exactly the type of overreach that our country's founders warned against. And it's the reason that they established a federal system with a separation of powers built on checks and balances. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. No one from the White House or the executive branch has reached out to me or to the mayor. No one has reached out to our staffs. No effort has been made to coordinate or to ask for our assistance in identifying any actions that might be helpful to us. Local law enforcement has not been contacted. We have made no requests for federal intervention. None. We found out what Donald Trump was planning the same way that all of you did. We read a story in the Washington Post. If this was really about fighting crime and making the streets safe, what possible justification could the White House have for planning such an exceptional action without any conversations or consultations with the governor, the mayor, or the police? Let me answer that question. This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals.
Y es que, señores, es muy fácil de darse cuenta. Nadie le pidió nada. Es más, nadie lo consultó, ni el alcalde, ni la policía, ni el gobernador. Donald Trump simplemente dijo, voy a mandar al ejército. Tal cual, como si las ciudades fuesen de su propiedad. Eso, señores, no es preocuparse por la gente. Eso es querer jugar a ser un dictador. Y lo peor es que lo hace así como a escondidas, ¿no? Como si estuviera tramando un plan mucho más oscuro.
This is about the President of the United States and his complicit lackey, Stephen Miller, searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections. There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. There is no insurrection. There is no insurrection. Like every major American city in both blue and red states, we deal with crime in Chicago. Indeed, the violent crime rate is worse in red states and red cities. Here in Chicago, our civilian police force and elected leaders work every day to combat crime and to improve public safety. And it's working. Not one person here today will claim we have solved all crime in Chicago. Nor can that be said of any major American metro area. But calling the military into a U.S. city to invade our streets and neighborhoods and disrupt the lives of everyday people is an extraordinary action, and it should require extraordinary justification. Look around you right now. Does this look like an emergency? Look at this. Go talk to the people of Chicago who are enjoying a gorgeous afternoon in this city. Ask the families buying ice cream on the Riverwalk. Go see the students who are at the beach after school. Talk to the workers that I just met taking the water taxi to get here. Find a family who's enjoying today sitting on their front porch and ask if they want their neighborhoods turned into a war zone by a wannabe dictator. Ask if they'd like to pass through a checkpoint with unidentified officers in masks while taking their kids to school. Crime is a reality we all face in this country. Public safety has been among our highest priorities since taking office. We have hired more police and given them more funding. We banned assault weapons, ghost guns, bump stocks, and high-capacity magazines. We invested historic amounts into community violence intervention programs. We listened to our local communities, to the people who live and work in the places that are most affected by crime, and asked them what they needed to help make their neighborhoods safer. Those strategies have been working. Crime is dropping in Chicago. Murders are down 32% compared to last year and nearly cut in half since 2021. Shootings are down 37% since last year and 57% from 4 years ago. Robberies are down 34% year over year. Burglaries down 21%. Motor vehicle thefts down 26%. So in case there was any doubt as to the motivation behind Trump's military occupations, take note. 13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rate have Republican governors.
Este momento, señores, se me hace súper interesante, porque el gobernador lo destruye con datos. Mientras Trump grita que Chicago es un caos, resulta que los homicidios, los robos y los tiroteos están bajando, similar a lo que sucedió con Washington, D.C. ¿Dónde están las peores cifras? En estados republicanos. Pero claro, lógicamente Donald Trump no va a mandar tropas ahí. Solo va a ir a ciudades azules para poder intimidar. Es decir, esto, una vez más, no va de seguridad, va de política barata y de querer sembrar el miedo.
None of these cities is Chicago. 8 of the top 10 states with the highest homicide rates are led by Republicans. None of those states is Illinois. Memphis, Tennessee, Hattiesburg, Mississippi have higher crime rates than Chicago, and yet Donald Trump is sending troops here and not there? Ask yourself why. If Donald Trump was actually serious about fighting crime in cities like Chicago, he, along with his congressional Republicans, would not be cutting over $800 million in public safety and crime prevention grants nationally, including cutting $158 million in funding to Illinois for violence prevention programs that deploy trained outreach workers to de-escalate conflict on our streets. Cutting $71 million in law enforcement grants to Illinois, direct money for police departments through programs like Project Safe Neighborhoods, the state and local anti-terrorism training program, and the Rural Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. cutting $137 million in child protection measures in Illinois that protect our kids against abuse and neglect. Trump is defunding the police. To the members of the press who are assembled here today and listening across the country, I am asking for your courage to tell it like it is. This is not a time to pretend here that there are two sides to this story. This is not a time to fall back into the reflexive crouch that I so often see, where the authoritarian creep by this administration is ignored in favor of some horse race piece on who will be helped politically by the president's actions. Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. If this were happening in any other country, we would have no trouble calling it what it is, a dangerous power grab. Look at the people assembled before you today, behind me. This is a full cross-section of Chicago's leaders from the business world, the faith community, law enforcement, education, community organizations, and more. We sometimes disagree on how to effectively solve the many challenges that our state and our city face on a daily basis. But today we are standing here united, in public, in front of the cameras, unafraid to tell the president that his proposed actions will make our jobs harder and the lives of our residents worse. Earlier today in the Oval Office, Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, "Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city?"
Y es que aquí se nota, ¿no?, la hipocresía completa, porque Donald Trump recorta millones en fondos para seguridad, para programas comunitarios, para policías, y luego aparece diciendo que está preocupado por la violencia. A ver, porque si de verdad le importara, no estaría quitando recursos. Es más, los aumentaría. El gobernador JB Pritzker se lo dice en la cara. Esto no es un plan de seguridad, es un intento descarado de agarrar más poder.
Instead, I say, Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here. Your remarks about this effort over the last several weeks have betrayed a continuing slip in your mental faculties and are not fit for the auspicious office that you occupy. Most alarming, you seem to lack any appropriate concern as our commander-in-chief for the members of the military that you would so callously deploy as pawns in your ever more alarming grabs for power. As a governor, I've had to make the decision in the past to call up members of the National Guard into active service. And I think it's worth taking a moment to reflect on how seriously I take that responsibility and on the many things that I consider before asking these brave men and women to leave their homes and their communities to serve in any capacity for us. As I've said many times in the past, members of the National Guard are not trained to serve as law enforcement. They are trained for the battlefield, and they're good at it. They're not trained to arrest people and read them their Miranda rights. They did not sign up for the National Guard to fight crime. And when we call them into service, we are reaching into local communities and taking people who have jobs and families away from their neighborhoods and the people who rely upon them. It is insulting to their integrity and to the extraordinary sacrifices that they make to serve in the Guard, to use them as a political prop, where they could be put in situations where they will be at odds with their local communities, the ones that they seek to serve. I know Donald Trump doesn't care about the well-being of the members of our military, but I do. And so do all the people standing here. So let me speak to all Illinoisans and to all Chicagoans right now. Hopefully the president will reconsider this dangerous and misguided encroachment upon our state and our city's sovereignty. Hopefully rational voices, if there are any left inside the White House or the Pentagon, will prevail in the coming days. If not, we are going to face an unprecedented and difficult time ahead. But I know you, Chicago, and I know you are up to it. When you protest, do it peacefully. Be sure to continue Chicago's long tradition of nonviolent resistance. Remember that the members of the military and the National Guard who will be asked to walk these streets are, for the most part, here unwillingly. And remember that they can be court-martialed and their lives ruined if they resist deployment. Look to the members of the faith community standing behind me today for guidance on how to mobilize. To my fellow governors across the nation who would consider pulling your National Guards from their duties at home to come into my state against the wishes of its elected representatives and its people.
Eso fue durísimo porque el gobernador básicamente dice que Trump ya ni está bien de la cabeza. Lo acusa de usar a los militares como simples piezas de ajedrez. Y bueno, por una parte tiene razón, porque los soldados no están entrenados para ser policías. No están para patrullar barrios ni arrestar a gente. O sea, ponerlos en esa posición es algo irresponsable, es algo peligroso. Pero bueno, a Trump obvio que no le importa. Para él son solo accesorios en este show político autoritario.
You would be failing your constituents and your country. Cooperation and coordination between our states is vital to the fabric of our nation, and it benefits us all. Any action undercutting that and violating the sacred sovereignty of our state to cater to the ego of a dictator will be responded to. The state of Illinois is ready to stand against this military deployment with every peaceful tool we have. We will see the Trump administration in court. We will use every lever at our disposal to protect the people of Illinois and their rights. Finally, to the Trump administration officials who are complicit in this scheme, to the public servants who have forsaken their oath to the Constitution to serve the petty whims of an arrogant little man, to any federal official who would come to Chicago and try to incite my people into violence as a pretext for something darker and more dangerous, we are watching and we are taking names. This country has survived darker periods than the one that we're going through right now, and eventually the pendulum will swing back, maybe even next year. Donald Trump has already shown himself to have little regard for the many acolytes that he has encouraged to commit crimes on his behalf. You can delay justice for a time, but history shows you cannot prevent it from finding you eventually. If you hurt my people, nothing will stop me, not time or political circumstance, from making sure that you face justice under our constitutional rule of law. As Dr. King once said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Humbly, I would add, it doesn't bend on its own. History tells us we often have to apply force needed to make sure that the arc gets where it needs to go. This is one of those times.
El final es brutal, ¿no? Les dice a los funcionarios de Trump que son cómplices de un dictador. Y les recuerda algo que Trump seguramente le debe de doler, que la justicia siempre llega. Puede tardar, pero llega. Y lo remata, ¿no?, citando a Martin Luther King Jr. El arco de la historia se inclina hacia la justicia, aunque a veces haya que empujarlo un poco. En otras palabras, tarde o temprano Trump va a tener que rendir cuentas. Miren amigos, lo que acabamos de escuchar y ver no es un simple discurso político, es una advertencia muy clara. Donald Trump quiere normalizar cosas que en cualquier otro país llamaríamos dictadura. Quiere usar al ejército contra su propia gente. También vemos que hay líderes que están dispuestos a plantarle cara, decirle que no es bienvenido y que lo van a enfrentar en los tribunales. Esa, señores, es la resistencia que mantiene viva la democracia.
Trump isn't announcing any firings, right? Everybody just gets to be an ambassador to something when they get pushed out in this term. But in the military and national security part of the US government, if you watch what they're actually doing, it is really starting to look like mass firings of everyone with any kind of standing, everyone of consequence. I mean, Trump's people didn't just fire all of the senior lawyers in the US military. They fired or pushed out the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the Second in Command of the Air Force, the Commandant of the Coast Guard, the Chief of Naval Operations, the Deputy Head of the NSA, the Head of the NSA and the Head of Cyber Command, the Chair of the National Intelligence Council. Now, just recently on Friday, they fired the Head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Chief of the U.S. Navy Reserve, and also the Head of the Navy SEALs. The SEAL officer who oversees Naval Special Warfare Command, the former commander of SEAL Team 8, all fired. How come? And this comes on top of the evisceration of the National Security Division of the Department of Justice and the wholesale reassignment or removal of the FBI's National Security Core operations. And so how do you cover that, right? You could try to follow the ball on any one of those firings or reassignments or unit shutdowns. Right? Oh, what did Trump say about why that person needed to be fired? What was said in MAGA world about why that person needed to be fired? What could have explained how this person ended up on the wrong side of the black ball here? I mean, you could try to follow the individual story of all of these firings and reassignments and unit shutdowns the way we can try to discern the story behind any of Trump's newly announced ambassadors as they one by one are expelled from some government agency or the White House or from a romantic relationship with one of the president's adult children. And you can follow these stories one by one.
Pues bueno, ahora les pregunto a ustedes, ¿qué piensan? ¿Donald Trump se atrevería a seguir usando el ejército como su juguete político en otros estados, otras ciudades? ¿Piensan ustedes que de verdad va a ser lo mismo que Washington, D.C., en Chicago o en otros estados azules? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final en este video. Recuerda, como siempre, regálame tu like, comparte nuestro contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.